Radio 91.7. The Ogbonge radio station for women and their families.
It's a happy season. It's a happy time. We are happy holidays. It's a happy season. It's a happy time. We are happy holidays. It could not go kill yourself. It's up the end. Happy holidays.
Women Radio 91.7, amplifying women's voices every hour, every day.
Good afternoon. This is Women Radio 91.7, Nigeria's only radio station for women and their families. And now it is time for the 16 days of activism. It's currently 6 minutes past 12 o'clock right here in the studio. And today is the 10th day in the month of December. And that means it's officially 16 days of activism. We've been having a lot of organizations come aboard to talk to us about gender-based violence, how they're helping and all of that. But today we're here with the king of them all, the Oga Pata Pata of them all. The one that has been collaborating with Women Radio to ensure that this is possible. And of course, we have to hear what they have to say. I'm here with Jemima. She is the Media and Communication Officer at Tech NG. And she's here today to help us understand the great work they're doing at Tech NG to end gender-based violence, especially digital violence amongst women and girls. Good afternoon, Jemima. How are you today?
Good afternoon, Fee, Poliwa. I'm fine, thank you. Am I as clear as possible?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're welcome. Now, we've seen a lot of great work that you have done, and the fact that you collaborated with Women Radio to do this, it shows how committed you are to ensuring that the world is a safer place for women and girls.
Yes.
Now, as an organization that is working to protect women and girls online, what are those specific programs or interventions that you provide to support survivors of digital violence?
So thank you for that. At the core of our work is curamng.org. That is what we use to support survivors of online gender-based violence. And
Yes.
I just want to say that our core intervention is very survivor-centered, because through years of rigorous research, we're able to put together what online violence is. And that has helped us to be able to create a platform that takes away the major barrier to, one, the reporting or even the polarization or the normalization of such conversation on digital violence. So through Kuram, we've been able to get a lot of data on digital violence that has helped us to be able to create awareness programs. So I'll say that at the core of our intervention, there is our platform for reporting and documenting these forms of violence. There is also our awareness programs. Last year, we went to we covered the full region of Nigeria, the full geopolitical regions, when we went to do our tertiary institution tour to help students predominantly learn about online gender-based violence. And we create toolkits for this, where we are able to, for people who cannot attend our awareness event, they're able to read and learn through homegrown stories, relatable stories, for them to be able to learn about things like this. So I'll just say that we have a platform to help and enable reporting and for survivors to be able to get remediation for the violence that they have gone through. We have our awareness programs, our convenings, regardless of what we are hosting. Even if we are saying, come and drink juice, you must hear about digital violence. We have our awareness programs on digital violence. We have our toolkits to help parents, to help children, and to help young adults stay safe online. So yeah, those are the core of our intervention.
Well, this is so much great work that you're doing. It's important that every single person is aware. Okay, yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, so it's important that every single person is aware of what digital violence is and how, we can, because one thing that causes issues is because people are not aware of what it
Truly.
is, and and the effects that it has. So I'm really happy that something like this is currently going on at Teka NG.
Yeah.
Well done. Now,
Thank you.
how does your organization ensure that survivors receive holistic support? You've mentioned some of it, the toolkits and all of that, but what other means do you ensure that they receive holistic support, especially psychological assistance, digital security guidance, and legal help when it is necessary?
So one of the things I love about Quorum as a very survivor-centered innovation is that, like I said, it's very survivor-centered. Holistic help means that you are there to be heard, right?
Yes.
So one of the things that we do is to conduct a needs assessment for people who report cases to us, because not everybody who reports a case wants to prosecute that case. So you cannot just get somebody and say, oh, I'll have a lawyer for you. Because of how violence is, we have learned over time that most times survivors want to be heard, they want to be seen, and they want their cases to be recognized. So we always begin with a needs assessment. A needs assessment allows us to be able to know what the survivor needs. Do they need just takedown? Because whenever we hear about reporting cases, it's not just content takedown, it can also be psychological, right?
Yes.
So before we even get into content takedown, we've asked them, what do they want to achieve with this? Do they want to go to court? Do they just want content takedown? Or do they just want us to listen to them and help them psychologically through this process? And that's what we do. At our needs assessments, we are able to provide them the knowledge and understanding, give them back the power on how they want to handle these cases, what they want to achieve with reporting this case. We provide psychological care by allowing them to be able to speak to experts and even our first responders who are properly trained on receiving these cases. TechHire is backed by a 150-man and woman volunteer lawyer network program, where we have lawyers across 28 states in Nigeria currently who provide legal services for these survivors. We also provide free legal service. We cover everything that has to do with the logistics of the lawyer, of the going to court, every single thing. We write this for free for the survivors. So we give them this legal care to be able to access justice or what justice looks like to them. Another thing that we do is that we partner with a lot of agencies. So there's the Meta Trusted Partners platform, there's the Stop NCIR platform that allows us to be able to help survivors with content takedown. So in some instances, there is blackmail without having to go through with this blackmail. And in those cases, what we do is to partner with the organizations who we work with to prevent those things from going public. Stop NCII, for example, allows us to be able to ensure that survivors' pictures are not posted across 13 platforms and websites. So it already keeps them safe from the public view of these forms of violence. And then our Meta platforms allows us to be able to do content moderation, especially localized content moderation, to take down harmful posts, harmful content, insulting content, trolling, amongst others. So that is the way that we're able to provide them with holistic support. And lastly, like I mentioned earlier, one of the things that is very prevalent, especially in what you said, that people do not know about these forms of violence, and they can only prevent what they know about or fight against what they know about. And that's what we do. In all our awareness programs, we always teach people how to stay safe online. There are various digital safety tips that allow you to be able to stay safe online. And even for survivors, when we get these cases, at the priorities, ensuring that regardless of what they're going through, they are currently safe for us to start beginning the process of getting them justice or whatever remediation that they need. Yeah.
That's very true. You mentioned something earlier that it's not just enough for them to, do they want the support? Do they want legal help? Because many people don't want that. They just want, please just take the person off my back. I don't want wahala, it's very, yes. And I know that happens because many times these cases of digital violence and abuse, they often go unreported because of the shame, because of the fear and all of that. So many people would just rather be alone and not say anything at all and just keep quiet about it. So how do you tackle societal and cultural stigmas that prevent survivors from speaking up for help when abuse happens online?
Thank you for that very thoughtful question. Like I said, one of the things that built about Quran was years of research. And we noticed that there's a lot of shame that is taken away when people talk about the violence they have experienced. That's what Quorum does. Quorum allows for anonymous reporting. So you get to report confidentially each of the experience or any experience that you've had. One of the things that we have learned with this form of violence is that it never happens like in one strand. So someone can be facing sextortion, they can be facing blackmail, can be facing harassment and digital trolling. And that is what Quorum does. Quorum allows you to be able to speak about the things that you are experiencing, and then
Yes.
to speak to people who do not judge you for what you are experiencing.
Mm.
We noticed that whenever people went to go and report to police, amongst others, it's like, why did you take that picture? Why were you dressed that way? Why did you even give the man your number? Why didn't you block him? You know, it's just internet now, just off your phone. Listen, you they do. And person they search for internet, they cry.
Hmm.
And this allows people to not take the problems that they experience seriously. Quorum helps you to, one, learn about online violence through our resources page. You can learn, pinpoint, and say, this is the name of what is happening to me. What it does is allow you the confidence to be able to report it. Because if you are telling someone that knows about this, their response would be more empathetic. We also have first responders who are trained to be able to listen, analyze, and evaluate the various cases without blame or shame, because there is no need for that. If you were robbed, nobody's going to shame you and say, oh, why did you get robbed? People empathize with you. But we do not take digital and extract the necessary information from the survivors without re-traumatizing them or exposing them to various forms of violence. When you use the traditional methods of reporting, for example, going to the police, we've noticed over time that there is a re-traumatization that occurs right there. So survivors are telling their stories of what they are going through, but also in the way those stories are being extracted, in the way the experiences are being extracted for us to begin the process, for them to begin the process rather, we notice that there is a lot of dignity that is lost in between that. And that is what we don't do with Quorum. With Quorum, our volunteer network, our volunteer lawyers rather, our responders, they are able to get the important information without re-traumatizing or taking away the dignity of the survivor. That is how, over time, we've been able to help people get the justice, the remediation that they need. I think that a very important point to note is that most of the cases that we also get come from the referrals of people who have either heard us speak outside or have also taken cases, have also reported a case to us and seen how we handle the cases. So I think that that goes a long way to be able to show how we help survivors to overcome a lot of trauma and stigma from this.
That's really good. You know, one thing you mentioned was also the fact that I think people don't understand the effect that this digital violence, the effect of it mentally, they don't really understand it compared to somebody being robbed online and that outside. That's why they feel like, what's there? Can't you just block the guy, or can't you just delete your they don't know the effect or the consequence of that for the person, the victim. And it will take me to my next question, because this is a problem. The fact that people don't know the effect or what it does, or even other people being scared, oh, I don't want anybody to know that this happened to me, even though it is anonymous, right? They still don't want it to be outside, and they're suffering in silence. What are some of the biggest challenges that you face when it comes to combating digital violence, especially regarding technology, reporting systems, or community attitudes in general?
So I'll start from the first challenge I face. As a first responder, the first challenge that we usually face is survivors being comfortable enough to be able to speak. We just finished talking about stigma. A survivor finds it, most of them have found it difficult to be able to speak about their experiences. At a go, they are very suspicious. Who am I talking to? What are you going to use my data for? We have legalities that concern how we handle that. We have our consent forms that we give to them to explain how this process is going to be, how long this process might take, and what we'll be needing from them. I think that also gives them some sort of confidence for them to be able to speak to us about what they're going through. Another challenge that we face, I would say, is sociocultural norms. one of the very important things that we have noticed is that there are various cultural barriers that stop persons from reporting. The societal culture of Nigeria, to be precise, makes it very difficult for people to talk about things that have happened to them when they are especially when they're intimate partner related. So if it's sexually related, there's so much shame, there's so much stigma around it. If it's something that your partner has also done to you, there's also so much shame around it, because it's like, do not allow people to know that you have been through this, because all of a sudden you look like someone, there's a stigma, there's a mark they put around someone who has experienced violence, which is not supposed to be so. This makes it difficult for survivors to go through with cases. So we have people report to us and say, I have gone through this, this person I know did this to me, but then they do not want to prosecute this person. They do not want to do anything. And they are just like, oh, my auntie said I should not continue because, you know, what will happen in the future? Let us not make this loud. What are people going to say about me? The social cultural barrier to persons reporting violence that they have experienced is a huge challenge for people like us at Quran, because we need those precedents, we need those cases, and that's what we're trying to struggle. That's what we're still struggling with. But what we've been able to do so far to be able to help this is to create awareness. I know you asked about what is public perception to reporting these cases.
Yes.
I think that we have been able to hack how we pass our message to people from an angle of, it's not just you, because the idea, the mentality that, oh, it's not me today, so it doesn't really matter. But it can be someone you know tomorrow, and that's why it matters on how you can help them, on how they can report these cases.
Yes.
That's why I told you earlier that most of the people who report to us are persons who have listened to us speak before. So they know about the work that we do and they're confident in the work that we do. We've been able to do this by creating awareness programs that resonate deeply with the masses, with the public generally, and it helps them to be able to know better and what to expect when reporting a case. Another challenge that we experience is with law enforcement. Over the years, we have noticed that there is a barrier, there's a knowledge gap that exists between law enforcement and this form of violence. Though TFGBV is not new, the knowledge gap exists in how law enforcement responds to the cases that we get, how they provide solutions to these cases, or how they even interact with us, a third-party organization that is trying to reach out to them to either make an arrest or get the perpetrator to sign a petition, to get receive the petition from our lawyers, or even get a perpetrator to sign a sworn affidavit, right? Now, what this does is that it slows down the case. It puts fear in the hearts of our survivors. It makes them feel like already there's no trust in the justice system. So it already makes them hold back a bit. For this, I think one of the things we're able to do, or what we're able to do to mitigate this, is that we did a lot of courtesy visits to law enforcement and duty bearers. So from NAPTIP all the way to the Nigerian Police Commission, during the time of the late Arashe, we were able to speak to them and tell them what they need to know. We shared our toolkits. We were going to have a conversation, a robust conversation, to bring them into the room to know more about this violence and how they can speak to this and how they can respond to this when it comes to their vicinity. I think that those are the biggest challenges that we have. But then finally, I would like to speak to funding as a major barrier.
Yes.
Funding for online violence is not the regular form of violence that we know, right? This funding includes going to go and make arrests, writing petitions, going to courts, amongst others. It's quite expensive. Tracking a case, following up with the bank, because online violence is a very financially connected form of violence, that in one way or the other, someone is receiving money from another person, regardless of who is the perpetrator. We've had cases where one person reported to a blog, posted another person's news on the blog. Another person was texting the survivor, telling them, I can help you take it down if you give me money. But they are not the blog. They are saying they can speak to the bloggers. Because survivors are desperate, it makes it easier for them to say, okay, take this money, pay the blogs, ask them to take down this particular content. But then from our own angle, it makes it worse because now you've enabled two people to perpetrate violence against you. The cost of following that financial trail is so much that even in the conversation on the challenges that exist, people don't even think of costs, because when we get there, it's too big for us to even say, oh, cost as the first thing. We think of the things that we can change first, which is survivor's mentality towards this form of violence, law enforcement awareness. Enforcement is also look, and then so those are the challenges that exist for us.
That's a lot of things, and one thing I know is that it's a collective action. We need to all work together.
Yes.
Government agencies, even people in communities, we all need to work together to ensure that there is an end to digital violence and abuse. Because if the police, they are effective with their job when it comes to digital violence, it will be easier for the law system, the legislators, and every other people that are involved, the lawyers, the justice system, to make good judgment as at when due, so that it is not prolonged and everything just goes. And also funding, which is very, very a big part, just like you said, it's very, very important. So because now you're aware of the many challenges that it involves, that are involved in ending digital violence and abuse, what would you like to say to stakeholders, to the government, to technological companies, to communities, to civil societies, to our monarchs? What would you like to say to them? How do you think we can all work together to create a more effective way to prevent digital violence?
I would say the first thing is safety by design. One of the problems that we have noticed that occurs in not just platform, but in policy creation is safety as an afterthought, right? And that's a problem. If we incorporate safety in the design of platforms, if we incorporate safety in the design of policies, all our laws, we'll be able to note the various problems that exist for us to prevent. I always say that prevention is far more better than mitigation. If we're able to cut down a lot of gaps in our platforms and in our government policies that exist that allows these things to be able to happen, we will be able to heavily prevent these cases. So prevention on the side of safety by design, on the side of platform, on the side platform owners, big tech, on the side of policies, government officials as well, to be honest, because I'm looking at the recently reviewed, what's the name? Cybercrimes law. And there are a lot of digital violence that are not incorporated into this new law that has been reviewed. And that's a problem. So safety by design allows you to be able to think through the problem and work through that problem before it even happens. So it's more preventive compared to if we're mitigating these issues. Another thing I'd like to add is on collaboration. Everybody is currently doing something on TFGBV, but what are they currently doing together, right, to help us to be able to stop or mitigate this form of violence? I always say that when it comes to providing solutions, it is very pertinent that we do not work in silos, that we are not working in silos in order for us to be able to create survivor-centered solutions to these particular problems. And these are conversations that need to be had. So who are you working with? I was very happy when women said they were doing something on 16 days of activism. And that's the kind of collaboration that we need to be able to move the awareness on digital. So instead of everybody working in silos, let's come together. Let's work on a collaborative activity that's not only going to create awareness, but to be able to implement preventive strategies in the conversations on digital violence. And for monarch, traditional leaders, and every other person that exists downstream, I would say that we need to do better in being a safe space for people to report violence that they have experienced. Data has shown consistently that the reason why there is lack of reporting is that people do not feel safe. When people do not feel safe as communities that they already exist in, it makes it very difficult for us to be able to hear about these problems. And we need this data. because this data is what informs policies and change. We cannot create new policies that help to prevent digital violence or help to safeguard women against digital violence if we're not getting the right data for this. And that's the problem. I would say that for traditional rulers, community heads, elders, and all of that, we need to do more listening. We need to be a safe space. If you feel you cannot listen, ensure that you are able to refer to other persons who can listen to them and help them find solutions to this problem. And that's where TechNG comes in. So whether you are a young person or an old person, whether you know English or you don't know English, we're still trying to work on the language aspect of reporting on Quran. But I implore you to report on quramng.org on any form of technology-facilitated gender-based violence or online violence that you experience. No case is too big, no case is too small. Your stories, your experiences are very important, and you matter.
Thank you so much. That was really profound. I'm really happy that something like this is currently going on in Nigeria. It will help many people to feel safer, to feel seen and feel heard. Thank you so much. And at the end of the day, I believe that digital violence requires intentional action, stronger safeguards, and a collective commitment. It's not a one-man thing. We all have to come together to get it done, to protect women and girls in our online spaces. Thank you so much. This will be the end of the 16 Days of Activism campaign on Women Radio 91.7. And I hope you've been able to learn one or two things from every conversation that we've had. At the end of the day, let's all ensure that we create a safer world for women and for girls. And if you want, you need help, you need support, you can go to the website, Ateka NG. She has shared the details with us. So just go there, seek help, call them, talk to them. They are ready and willing to help you solve any problems that you have as regarding data violence and abuse. Thank you so much, Jamima. It was such a pleasure having you today.
Thank you so much, Fee. All right, have a lovely day. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much to the production team of Women Radio 91.7 for putting this together, and to my executive producer, Tom Okiwali Shonaya. Thank you so much. Till next year, for the 16 Days of Activism, my name is Fulua Akiremi. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Bye.
Yes.